Hey guys, welcome back to Andy's Dinosaur Reviews, and today we are going to check out another really cool Jurassic World Dominion release. We also have, as you can see, another extreme damage figure. I want to give a huge shout out to Tim from Collect Jurassic, who was super cool enough to help me acquire these and get them up here on my channel as well as into my collection. Especially this one, he also helped me get the Pyroraptor as well as far as the extreme damage figures, but this one, again, was one that I really wanted to get a hold of. Was, of course, worried about missing out on it. Definitely don't want to do that. So he was able to acquire this and hook me up with it. So super awesome of him. Thank you so much again to Tim. But you can see we have the Quilmesaurus from the Mattel line, and it looks really neat. A very cool species of dinosaur that I personally would have never expected Mattel to make, but they're very good at doing that. They've been doing that for quite some time as far as pulling out some pretty cool figures out of nowhere, especially when it comes to obscure species. And then here on the back, you can also see again the Quilmesaurus, a nice image there of it, as well as an image down here with the extreme damage Velociraptor, which we have reviewed here on the channel, as well as the extreme damage Pyroraptor, which we will be reviewing here on the channel very soon. So very excited to take a look at this. Let's pop this out of the box and jump straight to a closer look at it right now. So starting up here at the head sculpt of our Quilmesaurus, you can see some really nice looking scale detail, very vibrant scale detail throughout the entire face here of our dinosaur. You've also got the nostrils sculpted out really nicely right there. Pretty nice looking detail there up around the eye. The eye placement isn't perfect, but then again, it's a Mattel figure. They almost never are, but you can see that we have a yellow eye with a black pupil. It's just not, again, absolutely perfect as far as the placement of the eye goes. Same deal over here, maybe? Yeah, you can see the eye is not perfect over here either. It doesn't look terrible. At least it's not like down on its cheek somewhere, but regardless, again, the detailing of the head sculpt looks really nice. Very vibrant scale detail. You do have an articulated jaw. You can see opens quite nicely. Beautifully textured tongue in there. You've got a nice pinkish tone for the inside of the mouth. You can also see the skin flap there on the inside of the mouth. Once we have it open, you can also see the gloss coat there as I'm kind of shining the light onto it. The tongue as well sports a nice gloss coat. You can see that there isn't really a gloss coat on the inside of the mouth on the upper side, but we also don't really have any coloration up there other than the green. Again, that is what you see on the head sculpt. Coloration-wise here on the head sculpt, you basically just have this one tone of green, and then you also have a red for the lower jaw. I think it looks pretty cool, pretty nice looking coloration. You also have more of that red that starts to run down into the throat, but ends pretty quickly as we reach the throat. Sometimes I don't really like that. Well, most times I would say I don't really like that, but on this figure, I think it actually looks pretty cool, and you know, it would have looked weird had they run the red through the entire underside of the figure. So just kind of giving it that red lower jaw and the red throat, I think actually looks pretty nice. As you run back up here toward the top of the figure, you start to see osteoderms pick up. Again, very Carnotaurus-like as far as the appearance with the osteoderms running down in a few different lines down the course of the figure. You can see in general the back of the dinosaur has almost like an armored type of a look to it. And we also, again, have that same sort of a darker shade of green. It's not really all that dark, but darker than the lighter tone for the underside of the figure. But it's a slightly different shade, it looks like, from what you see on the head to the neck, just ever so slightly. It might just be the material used, but and the way the paint lies on it, but it's definitely a slightly different shade of color. As you continue to move down, you see a few different skin wrinkles there on the lower part of the throat region. You can make out the throat pretty nicely. Again, pretty smooth transition from that green to the lighter green of the body. As you move down here into the stomach region of our Quilmesaurus, you can again see that lighter green overtakes the majority of the dinosaur here. You can also see the extreme damage area there in the stomach region. And again, another really smooth transition from that darker green running down here into the lighter green. We do have a speckling on the figure that's pretty abundant through the course of the figure, and that is a darker green similar to the green that we see on the back. As you move down the back, you continue to see again those kind of osteoderms and stuff running down the course of the dinosaur, and some nice ridges there running along the spinal column. And then as you move out here into the arms, you've got some pretty nice small arms like you would like to see on your Quilmesaurus. Pretty nice looking hand sculpt as well. And then back up here, you can kind of make out the hip bone a little bit, but it's not too elaborated, I don't think. Of course, we have the action feature button up here for the extreme damage. We also have the Jurassic Facts code, which still is, really ugly. I don't like the way that they apply that. And some figures it's even worse than others, because like this one you can really see that big gap and everything up there. It really takes away from the figure, but at the same time I'm just so excited to have a Quilmesaurus that it's not that big of a deal to me at this point. You can see some really nice muscle definition in the thigh, and again the fact that we have that light green with that speckling really kind of gives it color variation through the course of the entire figure, kind of makes it look like it has some more color down here when it really doesn't, because you don't see any paint for the nails or anything, which is a little bit of a downside, but since we at least have a speckling and everything through the lighter green, I feel like it doesn't look too bad. You've also got some nice calf muscles on our Quilmesaurus, and you can see the kneecap present there on the front of the leg. As you move down into the foot sculpt, you've got kind of like your classic Mattel theropod foot sculpt, as you have some nice scoots running down the toes, and again more of that speckling. The nails kind of almost look like they have a gloss coat, but it's not really noticeable. You can also see the dew claw over there on the opposing leg, and then leading back up here into the tail. You can see again some really nice scale detail through the course of the figure, like running down the thigh and down into the calf and everything. It's very, very reptilian looking scales on this, very lizard-like looking scales, I would say. And as you move out the course of the tail, again, you see more of those osteoderms and stuff leading out the entire length of the tail as we head out toward the tip. What I do like about the paint job of this figure is you can see that that darker green actually runs from the head all the way out onto the tail and almost the entire way out before it transitions to a lighter tip of the tail. And, sometimes that doesn't really look that great because, Mattel loves to have like this darker coloration cut off here in the hip region, but they actually ran it out onto the tail. And I like that it transitions back to the lighter green for the tip of the tail. I think that's a nice way to end the figure. And just look at how much better the figure looks when it actually has coloration the whole way through. Like, that is so much nicer. If it would have had painted nails, man, this thing would have been a total knockout. But even still, it's probably one of the nicer paint jobs that I've seen from Mattel in quite some time. Of course, being an articulated figure like this, you're not going to see too much difference over here compared to what we just saw on the initial side. The head sculpt looks pretty much the same. The neck and everything looks pretty much the same. As you lead down into the stomach region, you can see a difference as far as the extreme damage goes on this side compared to what we had seen on the previous side, as we now have 3 slit marks over here. We have 2 on the initial side, and then you can also see the leg is trailing over here, whereas the leg is leading on the opposing side. But again, the sculpting and detailing is absolutely gorgeous on this Quilmesaurus. Just beautiful from every angle. Even the undersides of the feet look great. And then you also have a nice curve in the tail. It's not a super drastic curve, just a slight curve that you could see there along the tail. Really, really nice looking. And then, of course, we do have the fax app code if you would like to add the Quilmesaurus to your collection. And then as far as the extreme damage aspect goes, you can again see that we have the insides of the dinosaur. Once it's injured, you push that button, it flips to the insides showing, and we've got some really nice sculpting in there, as well as a nice red glossy look. So of course it has that bloody type of a look. You can see it a little better over here, I think, compared to the previous side, because the previous side was a little bit smaller as far as the wound openings go, a little bit bigger here on the 2-sliced side. But definitely a really cool figure. A very, very nice choice of species from Mattel. I absolutely love the fact that they've been going so obscure with so many species lately. And this is a fantastic one because it's a brand new species to enter my collection. One I did not have prior. And honestly, Mattel did a very good job on this. As far as articulation goes, again, we have the articulated jaw. You also have articulation in the neck, so it can go down. It can go up and go up pretty high. And you can also swivel. So you could turn the head really nicely and get all sorts of angles for the neck region of your Quilmesaurus. You do, of course, have the arm articulation forward and back and out away from the body. You can go pretty far out, so you can get those arms nice and in a nice natural position. You also have the articulation of the legs, which is a little stiff, but definitely works nicely. Of course, both legs. And then, yep, we've got a swivel tail, which really doesn't do much, but is just another area of articulation. It also balances really, really nicely. But for a length on our Quilmesaurus, you're looking at about 7.5 inches or 19 centimeters. And then for a height, about 3 inches or just shy, I would say, of 8 centimeters, maybe a little over 7.5. For a size comparison, there is Mr. Papo T-Rex, the Attack Pack Quilmesaurus, as well as Robert Muldoon from the Mattel Jurassic World toy line. And you can see this Quilmesaurus is definitely quite small, right around in the, Attack Pack size range. You can see that there with the Quilmesaurus, but at the same time, again, it's absolutely jam-packed with incredible sculpt and detail for a pretty small size. And then for another size comparison, there is the Extreme Damage Velociraptor, who we just saw in the back of the packaging. And you can see that the Quilmesaurus, yes, it is even smaller than the Velociraptor. Not by much, but definitely shorter and maybe slightly smaller as far as body mass, or actually probably pretty similar in body mass, but definitely a little bit smaller as far as the height goes, and I think a little bit shorter. But for one more comparison, there is a Mattel Monolithosaurus next to our Quilmesaurus. Again, showing you that it is definitely a bit on the smaller side. I don't feel like we need too many size comparisons. If you are a Mattel collector, you probably have at least one of the Velociraptors or a Monolithosaurus at this point, but if not, again, it's definitely right there in the Attack Pack, Wild Pack size range. So this brand new Extreme Damage Quilmesaurus is absolutely awesome. I love this figure. Again, being a Quilmesaurus, that is super exciting in its own right because it's a species that I definitely do not have in my collection. I have not ever seen anyone release a figure of this species. So straight away, Mattel gets some major props for that, releasing a Quilmesaurus. But also in general, the figure is really nicely done. Like, there's some beautiful detailing as per usual when it comes to a Mattel figure. The sculpt is really highly detailed, and not only is it really highly detailed, but it's really vibrant. Like, the scale detail really jumps out at you, really pops on the course of the figure. And I love that there's quite a bit of difference. Like, you see a different style of scaling in the face compared to what you see on the body. The body has a very lizard-like reptilian type of a scaling, and the scales of the face are just a little bit bigger, a little bit different as far as the way they appear. And then you also have those osteoderms running down the course of the body, kind of giving it a little bit of like an armored type of a look there on the back. The paint application as well is really, really nice because we have paint from the head all the way out to the tip of the tail. And again, a Mattel figure, it looks so much better when Mattel does that. I really wish they would do it more often. And this is a prime example of how much nicer a figure can look when we actually have paint through the entire body rather than making it look like it's half painted. And again, I think they did do a very good job as far as the coloration of this one. The only thing that could have helped would have been nail paint, but honestly, aside from that, it's a beautiful paint job. And then we have the Extreme Damage feature, which is pretty fun. It's nothing amazing to write home about. We've had it before, we've seen it before, but it is still a pretty fun action feature. And when it comes to a playability standpoint, kids will definitely love it. And even as far as like an adult collector goes, I do quite dig that Extreme Damage action feature. Unfortunately, we, as per usual, have the obnoxious kind of look for the Jurassic Facts app code, but that's just something that's rampant on pretty much all Mattel figures nowadays. And then you also have some really fun articulation on top of everything. So as a whole, this is a gorgeous figure. Definitely a high recommendation from me. Unfortunately, it's very hard to find here in the United States, so Tim was able to import one for me rather than waiting and hoping and praying it comes to the United States, because at this point you just never know. So I really, really wanted to get hold of this figure. So again, Tim hooked me up with one. I'm not entirely sure where he scored this from, but I know it wasn't the United States. So hopefully we do get them here at some point. But if we do, definitely pick it up. It is a very nice figure. If you happen to have it where you live already, then definitely pick it up. It's still a really nice figure. And make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. And I will see you in the next review. Thanks for watching.